Here we are again. A question was asked about another tutorial on how to baste up a kilt prior to pressing. Now, I do have that elsewhere, but I've got close to 500 videos now, and some of them, even though I've organized them into playlists and folders, I guess they get lost. So fortuitously, because the question was asked, and then this is one of several, I think 3 Royal Canadian Air Force kilts that have come to us for unfarbing, for fixing up, because we can see, looking at this one, we've done some repairs. We've reset the straps, reattached the lining. Some of the pleats have come adrift, so we've sewn them up again. But when we look at this, when we can see the wavy, how the cloth is all wavy and wrinkled across the back, plus the state of these pleats, whoever had this last, their preferred method for putting it away was putting it away wet, and possibly also maybe rolling it up into a ball and, I don't know, shoving it under the bed or something, because this is a mess. What we can see here too, when you look at the condition of the pleats, this is what we get when a dry cleaner's had it, because as you can see, they're all kind of, a lot of them are all kind of pie-shaped, and where they start at the end of the fell, the crease has going off at an angle. So I'm going to show you what to do. In my previous vids, I was showing how to baste crosswise to put everything in place, because of course we can't just press one side of the kilt, we have to press both sides. So let's start, and you can start at either end. For this part of it, I'm not going to look at this at the apron right now. This may or may not be where gravity has dictated. It might be pretty close, because look at this edge. We're just a little bit past the red lines, and we're a bit about the same there. But I'm gonna address that later, because one of the things that's happened, this kilt's been shortened by hemming it, by sewing it up, and I'm not going to undo that. I'm just going to grit my teeth while working around it. So we look at this first pleat, and I'm using this piece of white plastic, and I hope it's not too bright in the screen. I can switch to green. What does it look like? Good. But frankly, I don't even need it right now, because I'm not going to be sewing through and through. I start, and again, this is a left-handed procedure. So you righties, I'm sure if you turn it around 180 degrees, so you're sewing away from the bottom of the fell like this, I imagine it'll work for you. I guess you're going to find out. Not being intentionally mean, just giving you an introduction to the life of a left-handed person. Okay, so we have this first pleat, and as we can see the angle it's going off at. It should be, the edge of the pleat should be somewhere here where it's still, where we have the blue. So what I'm going to do, we can see from the edge of the fell, the pleat sort of immediately goes out. So what I'm going to do is, with one hand, you can possibly see what I'm doing. I'm twisting the cloth. Twisting the cloth like that. So I'm just twisting it back, in this case just a very little bit indeed, and I'm doing a back stitch, and this is just plain cotton thread. It's not waxed, there's no knot tied in the end of it, and I'm just going to carry on like this all the way to the end. Now, I admit I've been doing this an awful long time, so I'm just sort of boldly going. I'm gauging the width of the pleat, because the pleat comes, as we see at the bottom of the fell, it's from the black to just about where the black starts on the other side, and I'm gauging it by eye because I've got a lot of experience. But you might want to measure a few places along the line, and either with your gauge, if you've made the gauges, or with a measuring tape, just make a mark with chalk so that you're doing it right. But I encourage you to try, at least, and keep trying, to do it by eye, because your eye will be a precision instrument if you learn to trust it, and if you learn to see, yeah, frankly, it sounds goofy, but to see what you're looking at. And frankly, even after as many years as I've been doing this, I'm still, I'll show you what I'm going to do when I get to the end of it. get to the end, I do a back stitch. I would cut that off, but I'm not going to do that right now. But then I'm going to turn it this way. And you can see, because I was holding it in one hand, I didn't need a backing piece. Backing piece might be useful. If it is, go ahead and use it. So having done that, I turn and look at this way, and okay, it's a tiny bit narrow there, but it's pretty much good, the whole length. In fact, that itself might be actually, no, when I come back and I'm looking at it from further away, looking at it like that, it looked like it got a bit narrower right there, but looking there from there, it's actually a nice straight line. So I'm going to do that. In this case, we are going to do that for every one of these pleats, because every one of them, as you can see, the red line starts getting visible, and the crease is farther and farther away from the red line. Same thing here. It's about halfway between these two red lines, and it goes out. So we're going to have to do that for each of these pleats. And then after having done it that way, then we do the standard tacking and basting from left to right, from right hip to left hip, because in that stage, and I'll cover that again, but for this we can do it on either end. In fact, if you encounter a kilt where only some of these pleats are messed up, then maybe you don't have to do all of them, but you can start in the middle, because you're not sewing two pleats together, you're just sewing two thicknesses of cloth together. But when the time comes to baste it, to stabilize it, you have to start at the right hip and work to the left hip, because the reason why is, you see, we have all of this extra cloth, and if I start sewing it here, I'm going to be affecting this width. Well, it's still, in fact, how deep is that? That's a pretty deep pleat. If I'm sewing here, I'm going to be affecting the hang of this pleat, and it's just, if maybe you're good enough to do it, I'm not. And if you get it wrong, you have to get back and do it again. It's just simpler to start at the right hip, where you start with three thicknesses of cloth, and then 6, 7, 9, and so on, because we're sewing through and through. Because by going this way, we're shaping this pleat, not this one over here. So thank you.